I had a dream. It's the only book that I've written of the 13 that I've written so far. It's the only one that began with a dream. I had this dream about this monk who was living in the woods and had all these abilities. And he just really craved isolation and solitude. And he really always just wanted to be left alone. And he kept getting called out on certain missions, and all these different things would happen to him. And he was just this amazing guy.
It's really funny because as you're describing the dream, I imagine this like mildly angry guy, like, leave me alone.
In my dream, he was young and very handsome. So
Oh, okay.
he was not your average monk.
Right.
He had a very attractive feel about him. At the end of the dream, I saw it in book form and saw the name of it.
Wow.
So I woke up immediately, wrote this all down, and decided I would write it.
Yeah.
And I named it exactly as I saw it in the dream.
So you got the name and everything from
Yep,
the dream.
all from the dream. And I saw that the book would do very well in the dream.
Wow.
That eventually it would be a very well-known book. The themes in the story covers supernatural power, racism, a lifestyle of prayer and seclusion, evangelists versus prophets, social reactions to prophets, being led by God, and then there's these fantasy themes in it, right? Because it's a fantasy story, so it's about aliens.
Right.
It's quite a combination of
Right.
things.
There's a lot going on.
Yes, supernatural realms and
Yeah.
other worlds and fantasy power.
Interstellar travel.
Interstellar travel. Yeah, so it's got a lot of different themes in there that are a lot of fun and make it a really
Yeah.
unique story.
You do have a ton of layered themes, I guess, though, in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one. And you tie them all together very beautifully. It doesn't feel overwhelming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Meg is a super fan. In fact, she is such a super fan, she could be the head of my fan club if I had a fan club. My favorite scene in this book, which has gotten a lot of traction from people who have read it, is the scene where Ike and Vesey raise Trula from the dead.
It's no big deal.
So, right, it's a very intense, dramatic, and beautiful scene. And, you know, there's like this lightning storm happening, and the electricity goes out in the house, and it's, you know, really cool. And
And then she comes to life.
I really enjoyed writing it. So that's my favorite scene. Meg, what is yours?
Also, you
Oh.
forgot that in the beginning of that scene, one of the reasons why it makes it so beautiful is because Ike is talking to her about the power of God and how it's used within, how to use it and how to operate in it,
Right.
which is so good. He says very practical things about letting the Lord
Use
you.
and
And
work
it is
through
not
you.
you, but it's the Lord's power, but you can do it and facilitate it so that you can do these things.
All right. So, what is your favorite scene, Meg, from this book? If you're able to, you know, narrow it down.
I probably, this one is my favorite because it always comes back. It's the one that I remember the most anytime I think about the book, which is when Vesey is singing and the desert comes to life.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's
Yes.
the most famous scene in my head
Yes. Well,
because you write it so theatrically so that I can see this. Like, if this would be an excellent movie scene.
yes.
They're like sailing above in the boat. I mean, how much can I say?
It's an airship.
Yeah, the airship.
Yeah, they're sailing in an airship over a dead desert, and she brings the desert to life.
With singing. And
Yeah,
it's gorgeous. And it's written so well.
Thank you.
And I love redemption stories and love.
Yeah.
And that's what she's doing. It's the Lord through her bringing redemption to this empty desert. So I have also an honorable mention on the favorite scene. It's when Ike hears about Vesey being kidnapped and how he responds. He gets the news that Vesey's kidnapped, and so he wants to immediately be very upset. But you realize he doesn't feel super angry, and he dealt with he was able to have his emotions come at him, but he was like, his spirit man was stronger than his emotions and his flesh, and
You
had
saw what he
practiced
did
enough.
to get it under control.
Yeah.
I do weave that into the entire story is
Right.
because it is a Christian fantasy, and it's the most I would say it's the most Christian fantasy book that I've written. It has these fantastic fantasy elements in it, but it's, his walk with the Lord is very real, and his the things he does to walk out his spirituality is all really practical and
Yeah.
really real. It is, and you do feel as if this character could live in modern times and be among us,
Right.
minus all the fantasy stuff. And so I do, you're right. You're pointing out a moment where I really wrote how it should be done, how you find self control in the middle of super bad news when you're tempted to panic and you feel a ton of emotions. You feel panic, you feel anger, you feel lost,
Out of control.
you're out of control. You feel robbed, and so how he manages to pull himself together and overcome in that moment so that he can make decisions and take action
Right.
is a really real moment. And I like it because what I try not to do in my writing is be preachy or
Right.
trite. I just like to demonstrate through the character, here's how you do it if you
Yep.
were to do this or were to find yourself in this situation. And my characters do not preach either.
Right.
And so they just show, they just demonstrate.
Yeah.
And that's what I have him do, especially in that moment. I remember it stands out particularly as well.
Yeah. At that point in the book, you as the reader are invested in Vesey as well. And you also want to be like,
Yeah, you're
obviously.
feeling what he's feeling too.
Right.
You're overwhelmed, like, oh no.
I can't believe this happened.
Not Bessie!
No.
So, what is your favorite character in this story? Mine is Ike. It has to be Ike. Ike is the main character, and he is hands down one of my top 3
Yeah.
of all
Of
the
all
stories that
time.
I've written of all times. Yeah, of all time of the stories I have created. He is my top 3.
Yeah.
And there's some really specific reasons for that, but I just think he is the coolest character, and he's witty and so smart.
Yeah.
And has such compassion too, and he's just amazing in every I love his character, and I love being able to write him. That he's so talented, good
At
looking,
everything.
he's talented at everything.
He's kind of perfect.
All right, so who's your favorite character?
Well, I mean, if it can't be Ike, which it can be, but I would choose Vesey as the other favorite character. She's obviously the other main character. I just think she's really beautiful.
Yeah, she is.
She's really pure, which you highlight and which I really like. And then out of that comes like curiosity and wanting to learn and grow. And even in her small town that she grew up in, she was like, she knew something was different and she held on to it. And then when the time came for her to go do something about it, she left. I don't know how much I can give away from all of these characters and people.
Right. She knew she was different.
Yeah.
And then, right, and she struggled with that growing up
Yeah.
in the small town, and also struggled somewhat with being different.
Right.
And then when her opportunity comes, you get to see that in this story.
Right.
She kind of spreads her wings, leaves home,
Yeah.
and begins to discover who she is.
Right.
And actually begin to make use of these strange talents that she's had since she was a child that were
Yeah.
scary at times.
Right.
And she begins to, Ike mentors her.
Right.
And even though he doesn't call it mentoring, he's like,
Right.
absolutely not. He refuses to mentor anyone.
Yeah.
Because he had a very bad experience mentoring someone once, which comes up
Which
in
we
this
get to
story.
see.
You get to see that. You get to see the person the people he tried to mentor and what came of it. And it's just this ridiculous mess.
Yeah.
But Vesey, he is by and large kind of teaching her about her talents and her abilities.
Yeah.
And then you get to see her kind of explode in this story. The story really has an arc
Right.
in Vesey.
She has a huge
Vesey,
arc.
she has a huge arc.
Yeah.
It is got plenty of suspense in moments, adventure, unknown twists. The ending has a twist ending,
Sure does.
and so it's a great story.